So the principles that we're discussing in this lesson, follow through and overlapping action, are really well demonstrated in After Effects if we know how to connect certain objects together. After all, part of the some of the support that goes into these concepts comes from the notion that characters are largely connected. Their bits and pieces are connected to a whole. So we looked at some previous examples of characters moving, and all their connected pieces react because of how they're connected to the whole. So to do that, we're going to learn some new techniques in this video. So let's jump right in. So what we're going to discuss in this video is this concept called parenting. And parenting is made up of two objects and their relationship from one to the other. We're going to need a few objects in order to kind of show this off. So let's make a new composition. File, new composition, or I can always hit Command or Control N. And I've got my preset settings here already customized to my liking, 1920 by 1080 square pixels. I'm going to use 30 frame rate. I'm going to use animation that's, let's just go 10 seconds long. So just back that off there. Background color being, white is fine. We can do a little soft gray there. And I'm going to hit OK. So I've got a new composition created. We're going to need some characters for our animation, so let's go ahead and make those. Layer new, solid, and the solid that we're going to create here is, we don't want 1920 by 1080. We want, let's say, we're going to kind of make like a stacked box collection here. So we're going to start with one being 500 by 500 square pixels, etc. That's all fine. As far as color goes, let's make this first one like a dark gray. We'll make this a very, muted color scheme today. Then we'll want another box that lives just on top of this one. So we can do that in two ways. We could go to Layer, New Solid. We could do Control Y, or we could just duplicate this gray box, which is probably what I would do if I were making this, outside of a lesson. So I'll hit Control D to duplicate, and that makes a new gray solid for us. I will hold Shift, and I'm going to place my gray solid just slightly above my other block there, and I'm going to scale it down. Let's go 50%. So now we have a very clear hierarchy between these two items. So this one seems like it would be the controller or the parent. This one looks like it would be controlled, aka the child. And so when we do this parenting exercise, these will make sense. So let's go ahead and get into the fun stuff. So when you have two objects in a scene, normally they move independently of one another. I can move these around, and we've studied that in previous lessons. However, After Effects can create parenting or parent-child relationships, which allows this block to tell that block what to do. That option is contained down below in your timeline, and you can see it here where it says parent. There's a whole column that says parent. And you see this little kind of squiggly cinnamon bun icon, and you see the word that says none next to that. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to create that first parent-child relationship between dark gray solid 1 and 2. But to make sure this is clear, I'm going to rename these just so that you know what's what. So I'll call this one, I'm going to call this one parent or large, and I'm going to call this one child small, just so that you know which is which. Now, it doesn't have to be the bigger thing controlling the smaller thing. In fact, it can go either way, but I'm just naming them that way so that it makes sense. So let's go ahead and move the parent object from the left of the screen to the right. Just click and drag, and you notice that nothing else happens. However, if I back that off, Control Z, Command Z, if I use either this cinnamon bun icon or this none drop down, and I make the parent, rather if I do it on the I do it on the child item. So we actually want to start with the child object, and we use this cinnamon bun to click and drag to the parent. You'll notice that it creates that parent relationship by stating in its parents panel that its parent object is the parent large object. Now what does this do? Well, now if I move the child, nothing really appears to change. But if I move the parent, the boss, the king, then the child moves along with the parent, which is really pretty cool. So that way, if I wanted to do things like, say, rotate this object, whoops, let me go up here to my rotation tools. I could create a cool rotation with that object stored. But what also is neat is that the child, much like a real child, can kind of move on its own, even though the parent still tells it what to do. So I undid this parent relationship real quick. So let's put that back. So now I move the parent, but I can still move the child independently. So if I move the child over here, I move the parent, they still work kind of as one, with that parent always informing the child what to do. So this works with position and rotation like we just experienced. Also will work with scale. So they will scale together. When you do transparency, it will not inform the other. So keep that in mind. It's one of the few that doesn't. But position and scale and rotation all will work with that parenting relationship, which is pretty cool and pretty neat. Now, we can create further connections in this parent-child relationship. So we can have multiple children. So let's move this child to the side. I'll hit duplicate. And notice that since I duplicated this object, it's already placed as the parent of that large block. So this guy moves around. He's going to move both of the children, no matter where they're placed. But they can move independently of each other. Now here's something that's neat. If we take child small 2 and we choose to make it a child of child small, then guess what happens? We could move child small, and sure enough, child small 2 moves along with it. So this creates a pretty cool parent, child, and even further child relationship, right? So you can kind of imagine how the animations would start to take place now that we've set up these systems. Now, a few things to know. If you turn off these parent relationships, those objects will be left exactly where they are. So you got to be thoughtful and careful about when you set up parent-child relationships and when you turn it off, because it can kind of mess with your timeline in your previous animations if you're not careful about when that occurs. So that's it on the basics of parenting. In the next demo, I'm going to show just a simple demonstration of follow-through and drag using this parent-child relationship.